Take one, action.
There's this story we love to tell. The myth of the self-made independent filmmaker. A lone dreamer with a camera, hustling late nights, fueled by passion. I've sat on panels where people say, if there's a will, there's a way. And yeah, I've said that too. Passion matters. But those words hide a few key things. Resources, connections, luck, and yeah, privilege. The dream is beautiful, but it's not the full story. Festivals aren't just platforms, they're gatekeepers. Algorithms don't reward boldness, they reward familiarity. Henry Jenkins says digital platforms let anyone be seen. In theory, sure. In practice, the spotlight still favors the mainstream. Even the most rebellious voices, like Adorno and Horkheimer warned, get absorbed. The culture industry doesn't kill originality, it repackages it. Indie becomes aesthetic, not ethic. So here's the question that sparked this whole piece. If independent cinema is supposed to break the mold, why does so much of it feel like it was made to fit one?
Daydream, I fell asleep amid the flowers for a couple of hours on a beautiful day.
Traditionally, indie meant no studios, no Disney, no Warner Brothers, just filmmakers building from the ground up, broke, brilliant, and on their own. But that definition doesn't hold up anymore. In the book, A Companion to American Indie Film, Jeff King reminds us that indie is not just a smaller version of Hollywood. It's not a budget thing. It's not avant-garde, not exploitation, not full industrial independence either. And it's definitely not a genre. King makes a key distinction. Independent implies total separation, industrially, politically, aesthetically. But indie exists on a spectrum, flirting with the mainstream, borrowing from it, critiquing it, and needing it to survive. So even as indie cinema resists the mainstream, it often gets pulled right back in. Take Memento, Pulp Fiction, The Blair Witch Project. These films broke rules when they arrived. Now they're templates, taught as part of film school syllabi. The Blair Witch Project was shot for $60,000 by student filmmakers, and it ended up making $250 million at the box office. Raw, terrifying, and new. And the minute it went viral, the industry noticed. Suddenly, shaky cams and found footage were everywhere.
The idea is, I'm going to...
What was that? Mehek! Authenticity became a brand. And that's exactly what Theodore Adorno and Max Horkheimer warned us about. In the culture industry, enlightenment as mass deception, they argue that under capitalism, mass media turns all culture into product, flattening difference, commodifying rebellion, and streamlining art into formulas. As they put it, culture today is infecting everything with sameness. Each branch of culture is unanimous within itself, and all are unanimous together. The culture industry doesn't just create entertainment, it manufactures it. It doesn't just absorb what's different, it markets the difference as the next trend. Anyone who resists can survive only by being incorporated. Once registered as diverging from the culture industry, they belong to it as the land reformer does to capitalism. Even indie becomes a formula, a streaming category, a look. Because that's how the culture industry survives, by selling difference as sameness. Thanks to tech, anyone can make a film. A kid with a smartphone and a great idea might go viral overnight. In Quentin Tarantino's Star Wars, Henry Jenkins calls this convergence, where the boundaries between creator and consumer, grassroots and mainstream start to blur. Technological convergence is attractive to the media industries because it will open multiple entry points into the consumption process, and at the same time, enable consumers to more quickly locate new manifestations of a popular narrative. That's the double-edged sword, right? On the surface, this seems like empowerment. Audiences remix, fund, comment, and shape the stories they care about. It's participatory culture. It feels rebellious, but it's rebellion funneled through commercial logic. The first and foremost demand consumers make is the right to participate in the creation and distribution of media narratives. Media consumers want to become media producers, while media producers want to maintain their traditional dominance over media content. And those two words, traditional dominance, say a lot. Yes, it's easier to make media now, but it's still hard to bypass the gatekeepers. Even platforms that claim to be open, like YouTube or the indie sections on streaming services, tend to spotlight what's familiar, polished, clickable, already successful elsewhere. So while it's never been easier to make a film, it's arguably never been harder to be seen, unless you package yourself in a way the system already understands. Jenkins notes that some filmmakers make a virtue of their limitations. Abrupt edits, roughness, grain, as resistance. The rawness becomes a language, a way of saying, we're not like Hollywood. But even that language, over time, becomes stylized, recognizable, marketable, and eventually part of the formula too. We call them indie films. But independence from what exactly? The studio? The algorithm? The algorithm's idea of the studio? A Hollywood blockbuster might rake in $14 to $15 million in profit, more if it's part of a franchise. Indie films? Most scrape by, pulling under $100,000 unless they're outliers like Paranormal Activity or the Blair Witch Project. But the real gap isn't financial, it's philosophical. This is the indie filmmaking dilemma. To survive, to be seen, to stay relevant, indie filmmakers often adopt the very strategies of the mainstream. Recognizable genres, trendy aesthetics, Oscar campaigns, and social media rollouts. It's Adorno and Horkheimer's warning in real time. Films like Moonlight or Everything Everywhere All at Once feel indie, but their success was no accident. Distributed by A24, marketed with precision, and elevated by an awards machine.
Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
A24, thank you so much. You saw our weirdness and supported us for a year theatrically. That's incredible. Thank you.
Even Greta Gerwig's journey shows how indie can evolve into global IP. Some say she sold out. Others say she redefined what mainstream storytelling can look like. But indie isn't just a vibe. It's a method, a mentality. So who really gets to be indie? Films like Sound of Metal, Call Me By Your Name, You Were Never Really Here, they don't just show life, they feel like life. That's the soul of indie. Intimate, unpolished, human. And ironically, that rawness becomes commodified too. I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 11. I was obsessed with Tintin, and when I found out Spielberg and Jackson were making a fully animated feature, it completely redefined what I thought cinema could be. Animation could be cinematic, not just cartoonish. That spark brought me here. Film school taught me that cinema isn't one thing. It's not all glitz and glamour. It can be weird, scrappy, small. It can be yours. To me, indie isn't about budget. It's about intention. It's choosing freedom over polish, honesty over hype. And especially as a woman of color, it's about making stories that reflect my world, even if only my friends end up watching them. Adorno and Horkheimer said the culture industry makes everything formulaic. Now it's not just studios, it's platforms, audiences. Even we start packaging ourselves. The indie spirit has always been about not fitting the mold. Maybe true independence means not always being seen. And maybe that's okay. Because in a world built on replication, choosing to stay raw, strange, and human might be the boldest act of all.
And cut. Perfect.
Well, if you made it this far, welcome to the indie side of things. Hit that subscribe button if you want more existential film rants, or maybe just help me game the algorithm. Because hey, honestly, even this video's gotta survive the system.